Physical media will never die. I'll explain why. So I recently watched this video on IGN.
He cut loose an incredible quote, saying some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out they were working for the worst streaming service. This, at minimum, aside from the COVID-induced panic in the upper echelon of Warner executives, proves that Christopher Nolan has always firmly believed that streaming is not the thing. So, it's no surprise that with the Blu-ray release of Oppenheimer, he's once again going to bat for physical media. If you buy a 4K UHD, you buy
that revolved around Christopher Nolan and him talking about just physical media as far as Blu-rays and DVDs and how that seems to be a dying medium, and basically how he's opposed to that and doesn't want physical media to die. Absolutely agree. And now there's reasons why we shouldn't like the digital shit, but there's a lot of reasons why some people would like the digital shit, and obviously we're gonna cover all that right now. So like one of the things Nolan mentions in that video is basically you don't own them. Even if you buy the videos digitally, it's this weird kind of limbo where... So here goes some information on that, right? When you purchase a digital download, you are purchasing a license to access and watch the movie or TV show, but you do not completely own it in the traditional sense. The content is not physically on your device, but rather it is stored on a server and streamed to your device when you access it. The license gives you the right to access the content as long as it is available on the streaming platform or digital download service. But you do not own a physical copy of the content, and you cannot transfer or share it with others. But like I always tell people, just because the landscape's changing and there's gonna be kind of a reinterpretation of it doesn't mean that it's gonna die. So what are the reasons why people are kind of getting away from the physical media when it comes to DVDs and Blu-rays? Well, it's obvious, right? One of them is the streaming platforms and their catalog. So for a prime example of that would be Disney Plus. Disney Plus has the long list of Disney created films that's part of that catalog, that anytime you get Disney Plus, you will be able to watch those movies. That catalog makes you feel almost like you have that movie already, so why buy it? The other thing is the digital downloads and that convenience. Not having to go and look and search and find that movie, but rather just hit that button, download it, and now you have it. And that's some of the reasoning why I think there's this big push, like Christopher Nolan with the golden tickets, if this happens to be true, of putting in 5 golden tickets, and potentially you're able to go to his next film set to be part of the process, or just to watch the process, I guess. That's what they need to lean more into. Because I've recently purchased a Blu-ray for a movie that I like a lot, and that Blu-ray was flat. There was nothing on there that I cared about. And that's the thing, that in order to get this really like going and continuing, they need to realize a few things. One is that not everybody cared about Oppenheimer in the way they think. It's not a movie that I saw and was like, oh my god, this is amazing. It wasn't like when I watched Dunkirk, and Dunkirk was something that I still to this day think maybe Christopher Nolan's best, and I had to get that, and I had to watch, you know, the director commentary and all that stuff, right? People have to understand that not all these movies are gonna hit the same way, so this mass manufacturing of it probably should stop. Like, you don't need to mass manufacture it and just throw them everywhere. I see the $5 dump bins of DVDs in Walmarts and all that stuff, right? Maybe that's the aspect of it that needs to go away, and it needs to be more selective. Or there needs to be a way where we personally, the movie production companies or whoever is that is gonna do that for these movie production companies, can cut out the retail aspect of it and just go straight from them to us. That's an aspect that I would buy into, and it might even make it in a way where there can be more value added to me, in the sense of, because now you don't have to cut in whoever it is for that shelf space or that percentage that they get from the sale or whatever that might be. Maybe I can get it at a better price, or you can use that extra money to actually put a little more oomph into it. You know, take the time, create a poster, a collectible card, just things like that. Like, you have to understand that physical media is definitely not something that's made in mass. Like, the digital download is for masses. But the idea that everybody wants to buy a physical copy of Oppenheimer and everybody wants to sit down and hear Christopher Nolan talk about that movie, it's just, not even to me does that make sense. But there are movies that I do care about that deeply and want to get that and want to see the behind the footage and want to hear what they were thinking and why they did it the way they did. There's some of us that are process junkies, right? And And some of us that really want to know the most minute detail on a project because it really spoke to us. That's not gonna be every movie that people watch. So the idea that like Ms. Marvel's ought to have 100,000 DVDs and Blu-rays printed, that Oppenheimer should have 100,000 DVDs and Blu-rays printed, that Barbie should have 100,000, it's like, chill out, bro. Like, I think that's one of the problems that the physical media aspect is having right now. The other thing that I know that this is gonna hurt is that there's a lot of smaller movie production companies or even directors that kind of, like Kevin Smith is one of them, talks about how like his bread and butter is the DVD and Blu-ray sales.
Hey kids, it's me, Kevin Smith, and welcome to Clerks 3. Thank you for buying the disc. Let me tell you a quick story. The only reason Clerks 3 exists is because you bought discs before on Jane Silent Bob Reboot. Bought so many copies of it that Lionsgate was just like, you got any more of this Jane Silent Bob bullshit under $7 million? I bet you we can make that work. And I was like, I do. I got a lot of Jane Silent Bob bullshit really under $7 million. And boom, it happened. That's because you bought DVDs and Blu-rays, just like right now. Physical media is very important, kids. One day, maybe the cloud ain't there. How are you going to watch Dogma? You need a copy of it and stuff like that. How are you going to watch Clerks 3? Well, now you can because you got a copy.
And so with that being limited, that might be one of those kind of like directors that you probably won't see making as much stuff. But like I keep telling people, like the landscape is changing, but that doesn't mean it's gone. Like you can find it online how to print your own DVDs, and they're not even that expensive anymore. So the thing is, if you have the audience for these DVDs, for these Blu-rays, you can have them made and manufactured and you can get your copies sold. Like, it's not impossible. The argument being made here by Nolan and other people is that these retail shops should be pushing this kind of stuff onto customers, and I don't think that I agree with that. Like I said, it might become more of a specialty item, or people that are really identified with that movie or that director and really just want to understand the more nuanced information that they have about those films. So Christopher Nolan, yeah, the 5 golden tickets, and like I said, if that happens to be true, it just means that they understand that the audience that purchases these are people that are also kind of creative minded folks, people that love that process, that love that world, that really want to show up and show out for it. But one of the things that Nolan talks about, which is one of the main reasons why like I have my zine collection and I have my VHSs still and things like that, is that there's this idea of like preserving the art. And it's true because I have the original Star Wars VHSs before they redid the lasers and all that. Now for a lot of you guys that don't know, you can't find that anywhere. You're never gonna see that copy again. And that's the point, right? And there's another movie that my wife has been looking for adamantly, but it's not streaming anywhere. It just wasn't that popular, but it was a movie that really made an impact on her. And so we've been on the hunt for that movie, and there's no other way of doing it but buying a physical copy that someone has in their house and hoping that it works. And that's why some of this physical media stuff really does matter, because if not, you're allowing the market to dictate what kind of art is preserved. And it goes back into that whole discussion that we had about the museums, of like, when you allow money to basically identify what will be preserved, you're losing a lot of more radical fringe art that may not have had, you know, in scale, a big impact on the masses, but have had impact on probably other creators that went on to create other things. And so it's almost like a school of thought. So in short, no, I don't think physical media is going anywhere, but I do think that it needs to be recreated. Like I said, there needs to be a more focused approach to it, and making things to order, I think, would be more beneficial to the movie companies. I think that they probably lose a lot of dollars overall over mass producing these DVDs and Blu-rays that then just sit on shelves or go into the $5 dump bin or whatever it might be, right? Now, I'm just gonna say this last bit. If I was to find that golden ticket from Nolan, I would sell it. I'm more inclined to try to make my own movie than I am to go watch Nolan make another movie. Alright guys, that's all I got for you guys today, man. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, link in the show notes to the Big Cartel Shop where you get a copy of Feral Comics, the comic book zine anthology that I publish. Lates.